My name is Ana Adamović, and I'm Belgrade-based artist, Belgrade being the capital of Serbia, but I was born in Yugoslavia, which might be one of the reasons why so many of my practice is kind of connected with Yugoslav history. My dad is a writer and my mom was a journalist, so I guess that the whole environment that I grew up was kind of environment that I still live in, like with artists and writers and people from the magazines. So I guess it was always kind of expected that I will be doing something like this, being either an artist or doing something in cultural field. So no one was very surprised when I decided to go into art, though my first degree was in comparative literature and not in art. So after I finished comparative literature here in Belgrade, I went to States to study photography. But basically, when I was very young, I didn't want to be an artist that I am now. I wanted to be a photographer, but specifically I wanted to be a war photographer. I was researching into the year 1987, and then I found this footage, this TV footage of Colibri Choir singing My Country is the Most Beautiful of All in Belgrade in 87. And that concert happened in April of 1987, which is exactly the month and the year when Slobodan Milošević, president of Serbia, came actually big time on the historical scene. So for me, I watched that footage, I realized, I remembered that concert, in a way, watching that concert on TV in 87 when I was quite young. And it was extremely touchy because I thought, that now they were singing at the concert about their beautiful country or our beautiful country. But that was the very moment where that country actually really started falling apart. And they didn't know that, and we didn't know that as kids. So then I was thinking, what happened with these children and where could they be? And I tried to locate them, and many of them don't live in Serbia or in Belgrade anymore, as you may think. So it was a super minimal action, and they didn't have any script or anything. When they asked me what I want from them, I just said, okay, I just want you to gather together and sing the song again, nothing else. So it was very simple, but for them also very emotional.
Prošara dugina boja, snegovi kada je skriju, najlepša je zemlja moja, najlepša je zemlja moja.
Tukor's piece originated from the photograph which I found in one of the albums sent to Josip Broz Tito. I was researching that archive for several years. And when you look at those albums, they are very similar in their dramaturgy in a way. So many albums do have photographs of the choirs. But what was interesting is that photograph of the choirs of children actually singing was in the album sent from hearing impaired children to Tito. So what really triggered me to do that work was this thinking, what does that picture mean? Does it mean that that was actually the system where everyone was able to sing or do whatever he or she wishes, no matter if they can or cannot? Or, so was it so fantastically inclusive and emancipatory? Or was it a system where everyone had to sing in a way, no matter if they can or cannot? Or maybe it was both. I invited an inclusive choir that functions here in Belgrade, so meaning they're both hearing impaired and hearing children performing together, but they perform in a sign language. And I asked them to perform a song for me in sign language, and I found this song which is called We Create Boldly. So I asked them to perform that song in a sign language, because when the photograph was taken back in the 60s, children in the Yugoslav School for Hearing Impaired were not using the sign language. They were kind of trained to vocalize Now, obviously, they are using sign language and no one is making anyone to vocalize if they cannot. So they were doing the song in the sign language, but what was beautiful in a way, which I wasn't absolutely aware of, I mean, I was aware, but not that much, is how much sound anyone who is doing the sign language is actually producing. So it became like a triple performance in a way. There was a piano that was played for them, and then there was children performing, but also they were creating these sounds. I'm always trying not to be very personal in my works, or not to be personal at all. But on the other hand, the only things that I'm actually interested in are coming from my own experience or, my own history. So it would be very difficult for me to deal with something that I don't know or that I didn't experience. And for a very long time, I was really trying not to do works about Yugoslavia or not to do works about Yugoslav past because, the field was already oversaturated. But then there are some things that kind of hit you and you cannot escape doing that. So that was the thing with the Colibri Choir. I was really, really very emotionally touched when I realized what I was looking. So that's why I decided to do that. And, this idea that, everything in socialism or in Yugoslavia was just a performance or false or whatever. And then, you're like, well, but that's my life you're talking about. And how can you know that everything was, false and performance? Because that's just not true. This is not how we lived or what we remember. So this is why I started researching that, not only because of my past, but because, I really wanted to see what is there that we can actually use, because I guess most of us can agree that this moment is not really the best of the possible worlds that we are living in now, and that really this way of capitalism is not really the best possible system. So maybe there was something in that socialism or in these practices that we can use. This idea of having different people living together and not divided, this idea of bigger cultural space, of bigger geographical space and economic space, and how crazy it was to ruin all of that.